Welcome, friends. Today's program is about reporting on development, especially on social issues and controversies. Before looking at and learning about reporting on the development beat, let's get a basic idea about what constitutes development. A more widely accepted definition amongst communicators states that development is a process which facilitates and results in participation and advancements, both material and social, of the widest possible number of people in a given society. By definition, development is a complex interplay of several factors like environment, economics, health, and agriculture. It is a complex mix of several beats like civic, health, rural development, environment, and others. It is a bit of civic, investigative, advocacy, in-depth or interpretative journalism along with community and rural journalism rolled into one. This kind of reporting aims at informing audiences about development initiatives, activities and results, brings about economic and social change, advanced development, education, social responsibility, national integration. It gives a soul to media. Development communication is also referred to as communication for development, development support communication, and more recently, communication for social change. Before going further, let me introduce our subject expert, Shikha Gandhi, and I am Sakshi Mandwal. Let's take a quick look at what do we have on our plate today. We will be talking in detail about defining development and development reporting, identifying areas that it includes, skills required by a journalist for covering development and giving breadth and depth to the reportage through proper research. At the completion of this program, you will be able to develop newsworthy story ideas on development, be able to find and use sources, research on development and social change comprehensively, be able to report and write a development story in a concise, in-depth and lucid manner. Now it's time to explore the development beat in detail. But before you can do this, all of you need is a basic understanding about the beat and how it is different from other beats like crime, courts and environment. The term development journalism was first coined in the 1960s at the Press Foundation of Asia and born out of a concern that news organizations were covering socio-economic developments in a superficial way, with journalists reporting government press releases and quotes, but leaving little space for analysis or evaluation of development projects. The Development Communication Division of the World Bank, DevCom, considers development communication as an interdisciplinary field based on research that helps to build consensus while it facilitates the sharing of knowledge to achieve positive change in development initiatives. It is not only about effective dissemination of information, but also about research and two-way communication among stakeholders. Sounds too heavy? I'm sure it does. For now, just remember that development reporting is actually used to refer to two different types of journalism. The first type of development journalism attempts to document the conditions within a country so that the larger world can understand them. Journalists are encouraged to travel to remote areas, interact with the citizens of a country, and report back. It also looks at proposed government projects to improve conditions in the country and analyzes whether or not they will be effective. The journalist may come up with proposed solutions and actions in the story and suggest ways in which they might be implemented. Often, this form of journalism encourages a cooperative effort between citizens of that particular country and the outside world. The second type of development journalism is a thin line between news and propaganda if it allows itself to become a mouthpiece of governments. It may help development by spreading important information on government development programs across the country, helping in educating citizens and enlisting their cooperation on major development projects. But on the other hand, governments can also use the media and not give complete picture about important issues to citizens by telling journalists not to report on certain development issues. As a development reporter, you will be responsible for informing readers, listeners, and viewers about the various plans, programs, schemes, and projects drawn up by the government agencies, creating understanding and awareness about these schemes, and ultimately mobilize people to participate in development programs and processes, highlighting social change and bringing visibility to common people who are agents of change. Roughly, a development reporter has three tasks to perform: inform, interpret, and promote. As a reporter, your news feature on development may cover the following issues: economic development, agriculture and food security, health, sanitation and medicine, employment, education and literacy, informational technologies, development, housing conditions, environmental sustainability, urban and rural development, gender equality, etc. Its focus is on ordinary people rather than official figures. Its emphasis is on stability, partnership, harmony, and consensus. How do you report on the world's poorest nations or even the poorest regions in India? What should you be aware of while covering development issues? How can your story bring about positive change? We answer some of these questions here, apart from how you can produce story ideas, research them, and write a well balanced, impactful story while thinking more broadly and responsibly on development issues. Most sought after stories, development stories, are success stories. An often quoted success story of development at the international level is that of Japan, which has become an economic power in just 30 years. In India, the Green Revolution stories of Punjab, Haryana, and Western UP attract a positive response from the readers. The success stories of individuals who started from scratch and made it big by sheer hard work and dedication are also read with interest. The same is true of development stories of failures. People can have lessons both from success and failures of others. From success stories, they learn, when he can do it, why not I? From failures, they learn to avoid mistakes committed by others. Stories on common people doing major work promoting social change. These kind of stories give a human face to cut and dry development stories. The well-known development writers such as Sundarlal Bahuguna and Bharat Dogra have done commendable jobs in focusing on issues of rehabilitation of 30,000 families displaced due to the implementation of dam projects such as Ponk or Tehri dams in Himachal Pradesh and UP. Bharat Dogra's article entitled "Worms in Bread Basket" won him applause from several quarters. Besides, among the several positive case studies of development reporting is the example of a village called Chatera near Delhi, adopted for development by the Hindustan Times reporters under the leadership of Mr. B.G. Verghese. Titled Our Village Chatera, it started with the condition of the village at the time when the project was taken up. With the help of the scientists of the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, IARI, New Delhi, under the guidance of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, new farm technology was introduced in the village, and reporters visited the village to report the progress of development as it took place. This was a remarkable experiment in development reporting ever ventured in the country by any Indian mass medium. Thus, as a communicator, you have a formidable task of collecting information and transferring into the right format and passing it on. Again, the success stories will inspire more. There are no strict rules for reporting development, but the following sections provide some essential guidance. When attempting a development story, it is best to define your goals, know the affected people, and plan accordingly. As we have explained before, development is a cross-cutting theme, and so to make your story more powerful, you must follow these pointers. Clearly identify your storyline or objectives, make a structure and plan your actions. Ask yourself why a certain issue occurs and explore it in depth. Identify the affected people and possible problems as well as your target audience. Include the human angle and the voice at all costs. Anticipate questions that may be raised through your report. Be curious and persistent but also human. Ask yourself, will there be a backlash from the people involved? Will it raise awareness? Can it foster constructive debate? Explain how development impacts a country. This will anchor your story, giving it more immediacy. Let's take an example of covering poverty here. Poverty, as we know, is a big social roadblock for developing countries such as ours. We give you a quick primer to report on this important social topic. You will need to consult secondary sources, locate key documents, mine key sources of data, interview sources, observe the story in play. Let's take as an example the topic of poverty and health. What steps would you take to find and report a story about poverty and infant mortality in the country, considering that the death of a child less than 1 year of age is a prime indicator of community health and quality of life? Countries high in poverty also have high infant mortality rates. Lack of education, insurance, jobs, transportation, and generally low income all contribute to this fact. Research on data on infant mortality at a library. Look at numbers from surrounding countries as well. Find the state you plan to cover. Compare its average to the averages of other states. Pay close attention to minorities and female children. Also note the mother's age in statistics. Interview key players such as local public, health departments, nurses, doctors, and hospital emergency room officials. You could also contact local government agencies and non-profit groups that work with the poor as well as religious leaders and teachers. The main thing is to go beyond the official sources and go into the community to talk to ordinary folk. While writing the story, make sure to give it a human voice and face. And remember, not to make the story statistics driven. There are areas of development news and ideas which are only casually or rarely covered in the media. There are innumerable government and voluntary bodies, large institutional sector or research institutions, and several noted researchers and scientists doing a lot of good work for the society. Thus, there are thousands of excellent development stories lying buried under reams of papers and stories in labs which never see the light of the day because of the indifference of mass media or due to want of a good development writer or the apathy of those in offices to interact with the journalists. Enter into any lab and you will surely hit a path-breaking development story. Day in and day out, many state and central government departments and ministries dole out handouts, press releases, newsletters, annual reports, and plethora of other publications. Don't throw them away. Keep them for future references. However, never depend on them entirely. It is always better to talk to the concerned scientist or administrator on whose work the handout or press release is based. Be mobile and meet people who are involved in benchmark researches in labs and libraries. Attend seminars, symposia, and conferences. Ask questions, collect background material, build up your own library. The news books and research journals are myriad. There are about 250 journals on farming which provide useful data on rural development. In addition, rural programs such as the Integrated Rural Development Program (IRDP), training of rural youth for self-employment (TRY-SEM), development of women and children in rural areas (DWCRA), National Rural Employment Program (NREP), Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Program (RLEGP), and many more seek to provide employment to the unemployed and raise awareness levels of the people. All these programs need impartial and objective scrutiny at every stage of their execution. No doubt, there are weaknesses and shortcomings in their implementation. So, as a development reporter, you have a task ahead of you. You can choose any program and monitor its progress in a regular column. You can help in finding out why the benefits of these programs are not reaching the target people, or you can help mobilize people's participation in these programs. In addition, keep reading as it will sharpen your knowledge, style, and technique. You will never be short of ideas and you will always be ahead of others in the field. Taste a lot, read a few. Vary your reading frequently. Try to keep up with the most difficult yet most rewarding source of discovering development journalism. After a while, you will learn to find them quickly. However, even if you remain a mere reporter of economic and social scene, you will still be doing a great job. If you add a bit of background and sound interpretation to your stories, you will be doing a better job. But if you can also write to stimulate thought, interest, and action, then you are doing the complete job needed. Remember, you are as good or bad as the contacts you have. Fostering a wide range of contacts will help you find that great development story as well as research it well. Establish contacts with Be in touch with the development departments, ministries of rural development, agriculture, environment and planning, social welfare, child and women development, scientific institutions, and universities. Your rapport with different individuals in various institutions will help you collect good development news and features. Also, you should develop contacts in the Press Information Bureau and other information departments of states and public or private sector institutions. The United Nations is the biggest organization responsible for helping countries in development. United Nations Development Programme (UNDP), Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO), World Food Programme (UNICEF), World Health Organization (WHO), International Labour Organization (ILO), United Nations Industrial Development Organization. All these have their offices in Delhi, which publish excellent reports on their areas of responsibility at the global level. Keep in touch with their public relations officers to gather information about their projects. Prepare for a long-term process of planning, information, gathering and analysis based on various resources while researching a development story. This would mean the following. Mark items forward in time like known upcoming events like World Health Day, World Food Day, and dates of seminars and symposia in the diary. Use your diary as a follow-up system. It will remind you to inquire what happened to the promises and predictions of public figures. Keep clippings of good development stories, features, articles, pamphlets, leaflets, reports, and any printed document of relevance to your beat. In addition, cultivate friendship with senior development communicators to learn and develop. Following development issues regularly is also very important, so stay up to date on news and events. Making a list of NGOs, international bodies, journalists, and bloggers from the region. These may help you gain access to essential data. Let's take an example here. If you want to do a story on the implication of poverty on education and the fallouts of the midday meal on elementary education, how would you research the story? You may have to talk to a variety of experts and research on issues as diverse as frequent stomach related problems due to contamination of water and its impact on school attendance of poor kids. The impact of hunger on education is another area that you will have to study, as well as the psychological impact of poverty on children. This will give you a well rounded development communication story. Remember that every country has its particular challenges and dangers. Contact development organizations that know the region. Seek their professional advice on legal, ethical, and medical issues. Find a sophisticated way to report on sensitive topics. Show cultural awareness and do not alienate people. Don't stigmatize individuals or groups. Showing prejudice will harm your credibility as a journalist. Prepare to encounter different attitudes. Beware that political conflicts, local customs, and vested interests could put you in danger. Development issues are rarely isolated. So remember to not take stereotypes as the truth. Don't reinforce outdated prejudices. Report objectively and independently, taking note of the cultural, religious, socio-economic, and political aspects of the region. Avoid arrogant reporting. If reporting on the economically underprivileged, remember that they are entitled to find their own solutions to development problems. Refrain from sensationalist coverage. Avoid exaggerations, such as portraying the local population as helpless. Aim for balanced coverage. Don't be co-opted by the authorities, donors, or other parties with an interest in presenting a particular angle. Report accurately and truthfully. Portray a faithful picture of the situation on ground. And remember to follow up. Development journalism is not a one-time story. Therefore, it's important to do follow-up coverage on your initial stories. This helps you maintain an extensive network of sources and gives you a real chance to influence public opinion and do contribute to change. Continuity will give your stories power, so give steady coverage. Do not parachute in just when tragedies occur. Your reporting should be continuous. In writing development stories, you have to be equipped with factual information, which is generally not easily available. And you will have to develop your own outlook, which is more important than styles and techniques. Here are a few do's and don'ts for doing a good job as a writer. Travel and report from the field whenever possible. This will make your story more original, dynamic, and credible. It will improve your chances when pitching to other media outlets. Investigate the issue in depth. Check the background on all levels. Track relevant interconnections. Assess the cultural diversity and socio-economic status of your target groups. This will help you to find the best angles on your story once you're in the field. Work proactively, but be flexible about changing your storyline. Be sensitive to local customs, including speech and dress. You will be less likely to spark conflict and better placed to gain the trust of local sources. Familiarize yourself with terminology. Avoid using terms or concepts inaccurately. Identify how situations you report on can be improved. Don't just focus on the negative aspects. Look for alternative positive angles without distorting the story. Teamwork provides more rounded content. Partnerships give voice to different outlooks and expertise. This should lead to stronger content. Also avoid technical jargon and seek information from multiple sources. Give the local people a strong presence in your story. Include the individual and family stories which people can relate to. This will hook your readers more than dry statistics. Speak to women and children. Don't just focus on the men. Avoid portraying the poor as the other, living a separate existence to the rest of us. Avoid sensationalism. Don't create or reinforce dividing lines based on race, religion, gender, or social status. Put short term events into perspective. Report on the causes and implications. Break down complex subjects into smaller parts. Present complicated information in layers, increasing gradually in complexity. Use statistics with care. Don't overload your audience with figures, but do include comparisons if they clarify the story. Use new terms only if it is important for the target audience to know and retain them. Explain all new terminology. Beware about using technical words that have different meanings from their common usage. Cite sources for your story, unless this endangers them or where information was given off the record. Complement technical data with personal narratives. Avoid taking sides. Don't be influenced by third parties. Stay independent from special interests. Your language must be as simple as possible. When you mention the figures of development, expenditure, population, income, etc., round up these instead of using fractions. Comparative figures always help. For example, when you report on the impact of a technology, dig up information before the introduction of technology and compare it with the change brought after the adoption of the technology. This brings us to the end of today's program on reporting on development. We hope that you all are fired up and confident about working as a reporter on this challenging beat. It's time to say goodbye for the day, but before we do, let's do a quick recap. In today's program, we have learned skills for reporting and writing on development, finding sources and ideas for a story, researching and reporting, writing a well-researched story about social development. That's all for today. We shall meet again with yet another topic very soon. Till then, happy learning and goodbye.